Hey guys, my name is Brenna Callahan. I am with the NiVACK Group and I am the head of social media and marketing. And today I have Nancy Young with us. And Nancy, can you introduce yourself to our viewers today?
Yeah, thanks, Brenna. Nancy Young. I'm with the NiVACK Group. I lead the capabilities work that we do at NiVACK. I previously worked at Hewlett Packard Enterprise before joining the NiVACK team.
So can you explain to us what capabilities means?
I can, gladly, as a matter of fact. So probably about 15 years ago, the senior vice president of my organization, which was a global organization, came to me and said, hey, we need to find a way of developing our internal talent. What we were finding at that time was that the size and the scope of our corporation was complex and it was dynamic. And we had high regrettable attrition, and hiring from an external source could be costly and did not get us where we needed to go as quickly as we needed to get there. So we really needed to develop a program that really focused on our internal talent. And so we had to step back and say, well, what is internal talent? And really for us, our North Star was developing everything from entry to leadership. And so over the course of 15 years, we developed programs that literally addressed all aspects of our employee base.
So Nancy, why did you create a procurement-focused capabilities program and not leave the talent and development to HR?
It has to do with the fact that HR is on the periphery. If I'm being, HR has a very valuable role in all corporations, all companies. However, what we were finding is we needed specific talent. We needed it on demand. So what we call right time. And we needed to, and really only we, knew exactly what needed to happen in terms of developing them along the way. Our program focused on not only skills, like how do you negotiate, how do you source, how do you do contracting, what's a solid category management program. Our program focused on all of those things, whereas HR will focus on a lot of really, really important things that help round out the employees, and we did that too. But we had a lot of procurement core competency development work that we did within the capabilities organization, and that transferred to increasing the skill sets of all of our employees, specifically in procurement-based knowledge. And to be honest with you, it's not HR's job to figure out what type of technical training we need specifically within our organization. They're not staffed for that. That's really not the role. And if you think about it, a learning and development organization, which is generally housed in an HR kind of organization, the same thing applies there. What learning and development is looking at is building transferable skills. And while we did focus on that, there was a large percentage of what we focused in capabilities. We were able to build our employees exactly as we needed them to be in the knowledge, skills, and the attributes arena.
So it sounds like you partnered a lot with learning and development.
Absolutely. We took a lot of the best practices from our learning and development organization, and we had, extended team members that would help us out on key projects from the learning and development organization. We have so much to learn from one another, but it's not a one size fits all. So if you stop and think about it, HR is not one size fits all. It's never going to get as specific and granular as we need it to be in a procurement organization, and the same holds true for learning and development.
So capabilities seems to refer to what people need to be good at. Did you focus solely on that, or was there more?
There was a lot more. That's a really good question. There was a lot more to this. We started out by really stepping back and looking at where the gaps were in our pipeline. And that was very, very important to us because we had to start with understanding where are the entry points that we actually want to hire people from. So I talked a minute ago about just the external hiring and how that could be costly. We actually looked at building what we call an early career program. And taking it back to the capabilities question that you had, that actually, capabilities is about driving the skill sets. And what we did was we fully looked at the entire pipeline to be able to drive those skill sets. So, going back a little bit, we actually focused on early career first. So that was first out of the gate, and we were spending time recruiting externally, globally, and pulling together what we call a rotation program, because the thought process of, is that everything, you've got classroom, experience that needs to happen, that kind of learning, but you've also got experiential. Mm-hmm. And that is where we found that we were getting a lot of traction. So we actually put people, all our recruits, into a 2-year rotation program. And it focused on putting them in different places of the business. And they got experience in areas of finance, in different areas of the business that would really help them to come out of the program very well rounded. Now, in addition to that, we did do formal training, and what we wanted to do was have all of our early career very well rounded. So we knew that they came to us with a certain knowledge base because we recruited them from a university and they had degrees in the areas that we cared about. But then what we wanted to do was we wanted to build out the skill sets and really start focusing on rounding them out. And so we looked at what are those skills that we need to move our early career into the future, and things like, helping them to really understand, how to work with pivot tables and a lot of other areas like that. Program management, project management, Lean Six Sigma. We trained them in all of that. But then we took it one step further and said, yeah, but there's other things that need to happen. They need to be good at executive presence. They have to be good at presentation skills. There are so many things that actually would round out our early career, helping them to move further and faster in our talent pipeline.
So Nancy, apart from early career, what other elements did you focus on?
Well, we called this a talent pipeline. So my senior vice president at that time was really focused on making sure that we developed all aspects of our pipeline. So that was entry, that was mid to leadership, and then leadership. And so we developed several programs that actually address that. And so we actually, beyond early career, we spent a lot of time focusing on looking at what we call the mid-level. There was always a group that wanted to move from individual contributor into manager. So we created a manager development program called Launching Leaders. It was a year-long program, and it focused on a lot of the same areas that we put our early career rotation employees through, but this was really more focused on making sure that we're building the leadership skill set and getting them ready for leadership positions that would be opening in our talent pipeline. Now, we also took it one step further. We developed a manager leadership development program. So for all of the managers that we had, which were quite a few, what we did was we identified critical leadership competencies. Actually, there were 13 of them in total. And we spent over a year with these managers going in depth on a monthly basis. And it was not only just, learning, classroom learning, but it was also focused on practical application. The other thing that we did was we started with 360-degree assessments. So we had their managers, their peers, and their employees all evaluate them on the 13 critical competencies. And then we built personalized development plans for them based on the areas of opportunities that they had to grow.
So you focused on new hires and managers, but what about the current employees?
That's a really good question, Brenna. we actually stepped back and realized that those were not the only employees that we wanted to develop, that we wanted to provide career visibility and optimization for literally all of our employees. So we rapidly came up with a plan to actually document all of the roles that existed within our organization. And we provided all of that information to the employees. That would have a lot of information that would give them the knowledge that they needed, the skills that they needed, the soft skills or the attributes that were required to actually execute that job. And so it provided our employees with, a path by which they could, fulfill their career aspirations.
So Nancy, how involved were the leaders in the capabilities program?
It's a critical component. So as I mentioned, our senior vice president was the sponsor and actually the founder of this very critical program. And so let me just step back for a second and say, a program like this cannot be a flavor of the month. If you're going to invest in your employees, they want to see sustainability. They want to see that there is a program that's out there for them. I talked a little bit about at the beginning about how this leads to higher employee engagement, and it's a known fact that employee engagement leads to better results. And so that really has to happen if we all want to be successful in what we do in our corporations and our companies. And so executive sponsorship is critical. Sponsorship in terms of budget is critical, because you can't just keep, moving the pieces around and not actually investing in something like this. But there's also another critical component, and it's visibility to the talent. And so one of the areas that we focused on was doing very active, proactive succession planning. And we did this on a quarterly basis because I mentioned that the size and the scope of our company was complex, dynamic. And we really had to spend time because we were moving pieces all the time. So every quarter we sat down as a leadership team and there was active participation in terms of ready now, who could move into roles ready now based on the career roadmaps because everything flowed together. And then who would be ready in a year, 3 years to 5 years.
So beyond the succession planning, how else were the leaders involved with the capabilities program?
Leadership, as I mentioned, is a critical component. And it's interesting because we had such strong senior vice president support, which really matters, literally every leader in the organization bought off on the capabilities program. They offered up their skill sets and their time in terms of executive mentorship, not only for the early career, but for all levels of our talent pipeline. And in addition to that, offered a lot of 360-degree feedback to people that we were trying to move through the pipeline. And that would be our rotation, program participants. There was a lot of engagement with our executives and our leaders within the organization, as well as those in both leadership programs throughout the course of the capabilities program.
So how did you measure your success of the capabilities program?
So it started with early career. We really tracked the trajectory of our early career participants, and so it was our goal to move them into leadership positions in 5 years or somewhat there close to that. And so we spent a lot of time making sure that we track their careers. From succession planning perspective, we looked at how well we were doing in terms of getting people ready for roles and the time frame that it took to get them there so that we had ready now successors. And keep in mind, when we started this program, we had a lot of gaps. And so we had a lot of work to do to make sure that we had ready now successors in place. So that's a second. And so we had metrics that track that. And then I mentioned earlier, employee engagement. Employee engagement is key. And so if you can actually measure that this program like this directly impacts, the morale of your employees, which then translates to higher employee engagement, and it can be measured. If you've got a program in place that can measure that, annual types of surveys and things like that. That happens, and that's a good measurement in terms of the success of the program.
So do you have to work with other internal groups such as HR or finance?
Absolutely, it's very important. It depends on your company's structure, so that will vary by company. But generally, yes, you have to gain sponsorship for a program like this across all functions. HR is a good example of that because there is crossover into HR on this. An example of that would be succession planning. Succession planning is something that's traditionally done by an HR organization. In this case, we partnered with HR to ensure that this was done and in the timeline and the manner that we wanted it to be done.
So that's amazing. Is this something that you're able to do with companies today?
That's such a great question, and thanks for asking it. That's the reason I came to NiVACK. The NiVACK Group is very interested in making sure that we bring the experiences and the expertise that we've developed in the capabilities space to your company. It gives us great pride and pleasure to work with companies on these areas.
Nancy, can any procurement organizations take advantage of this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have developed our program, the capabilities program, to be transferable to any company. We developed the intellectual property that goes behind this. We know how to execute it, and we know how to transfer it to every company dynamic out there.
This has been great, Nancy. Can you tell our listeners today how they can get in touch with you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to hear from you. You can connect with me via LinkedIn or shoot me an email at nancy.young@nivac.com.
All right, we want to thank you guys for joining us today, and we apologize if you hear the children in the background. We're a very uncorporate company here, so they're in the green room while we have this interview. Thanks, Nancy, for joining today and providing us so much insight.
Thank you, Brenna. Appreciate it.